Residents of Mississauga, my name is Peter Nagallo and I'm the Vice Chair of Policy for the Mississauga Board of Trade. The Mississauga Board of Trade and Rogers TV are pleased to be hosting federal elections candidates debates for the various ridings in Mississauga for the benefit of the community. It is important for all of us as community members to be informed as to the issues and to hear firsthand from those who aspire to represent us. But come Election Day on October 19th, the responsibility falls on all of us, the citizens of Mississauga, to exercise our right to vote and to choose the candidate and the party whom we feel will best represent the interest of the community. Let's take a moment to introduce each of the candidates for the brand new riding of Mississauga Centre. Representing the Liberal Party, Omar Alghabra; with the New Democratic Party, Farheen Khan; and with the Conservative Party, Julius Tianson. The rules for the debate have been discussed with the candidates and have been agreed upon. Following the opening of the remarks, candidates will field questions from our in-studio panel. Joining me is Carol Kataka. She's the Vice President of Stakeholder Relations and Public Affairs for the United Way of Peel region. I'd now like to take this opportunity to invite our candidates to present their opening remarks for 2 minutes each.
Hello, my name is Omar Alghabra, and I'm the Liberal candidate for Mississauga Centre. I feel this is an important opportunity that you get to know a little bit about who I am and the values that guide me. I immigrated to Canada when I was 19 from Syria. I was pursuing higher education and a better life. Like most Canadians, I struggled at the beginning. I worked at a donut shop, gas station, convenience stores while going to school. I studied mechanical engineering at Ryerson University, and I later obtained an MBA from York University. It was that particular journey that taught me a unique appreciation of Canada and Canadians. I learned the value of hard work. I learned how an opportunity can change someone's life. I learned how respect and dignity are essential elements of our common humanity. After graduation, I worked in various managerial roles in the energy sector, and I currently work at the Faculty of Engineering within Ryerson University. My involvement in politics started when I was searching for a way to make a difference in my community. I discovered that public service is a noble way to advance ideas that improve our society. So I believe that our country is only as strong as our most vulnerable. I believe that our government should play a role in promoting prosperity while ensuring equal opportunity for each citizen to reach their full potential. And I believe in a confident government that bases its policies on evidence and science and embraces dissent and vigorous debate. Unfortunately today, Mr. Harper wants us to believe that we can't do any better, and the NDP wants us to be angry but offers no plan. The Liberal Party has put together a plan that will jumpstart the economy and create jobs, strengthen the middle class, and help those working hard to join it. This election, Canadians want a new government that focuses on issues that matter to their lives. I look forward to our conversation today.
Thank you, Mr. Alghabra. And now we'll go to Ms. Khan from the New Democratic Party.
Hi, my name is Farheen Khan. I'm the NDP MP candidate for Mississauga Centre. I was born and raised in Mississauga, and I know what it feels like to grow up in subsidized housing. And I also know what it feels like and what poverty looks like in Mississauga. I also am a small business owner, have been in the past, and understand what it takes to run a small business, a not-for-profit organization, and raising millions of dollars for local and global charitable causes. As your MP, I will stand up for Mississauga and ensure that Ottawa no longer ignores us. I'll make sure that our serious issues around traffic, congestion, around affordability, and about our safety, and it's something that we advocate for in Mississauga and bring change for. It's time for change. Tom and I are ready to bring that change to Mississauga. We are a government in waiting, and we invite you to join us.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. We'll go to Mr. Tianson from the Conservative Party.
Good morning. My name is Julius Tianson. I came to Canada 31 years ago when I was just a mere 21-year-old kid in search for a better future. I left the Philippines because truly the country that I was born and raised did not give any opportunity for me. And when I came over to Canada, I find the opportunity that has given me a brighter future. And now I am running as a member of Parliament for Mississauga Centre to represent the Conservative Party of Canada, because I truly believe that our party offers the best opportunity for young people who are coming into their work life in search of a better future. Over the last several years, I have managed a nonprofit organization that has served young people. Majority of them had come from different places, backgrounds that are very difficult. Nevertheless, they are here together with their parents in search for a better future. And through the Conservative Party, we do offer a plan that would allow young people to truly embrace a better future here in this country. And through our party, we offer proven leadership, experience in handling the economy, as well as stability in a world that is so unstable.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. We'll now go to our question and answer segment of our program. We'll go to Carol, and she'll ask the first question.
Thank you very much, Peter. My first question is for the Liberal candidate. There was some conversation around opportunity in your opening remarks. And while Peel's economy has shown great resiliency during the economic downturn, key sectors continue to struggle, including the export sectors and manufacturing. As a result, Peel's unemployment rate continues to remain high at 8.1%, with a very high youth unemployment rate. What measures would you or your party help to bring down our unemployment rate, including supporting youth finding jobs?
Thank you, Carol, for the question. I totally agree with you. We have been witnessing a stagnant economy for the last few years, and I believe, like I said in my opening remarks, that a government must play a role in jump-starting the economy. And we really have two major plans to do that. First, we want to reform our tax system. We want to give more money, put more money in the pockets of the middle class. So we're asking the people who have done well and are making over $200,000 a year to pay a little bit more of tax and giving that tax back to the middle class so they have more money in their pockets, so they can help raise their families, so they can spend on the economy and help jumpstart the economy. And the other component, which I feel is a historic commitment, the largest investment in our economy of a total of $125 billion over the next 10 years. And that will be divided upon infrastructure investment within transit, infrastructure, social infrastructure on social housing and daycare, and green as well infrastructure. So all of that investment, and there is no economist, by the way, that disagrees with that approach. Everybody thinks that a government can play a role, especially at this time.
Thank you. We'll let you wrap, and we'll move to the Conservative candidate to address that question.
Well, thank you for the question. The Conservative government is on record of balancing the federal budget for 2015, and we are moving forward to make sure that we offer growth and prosperity through the approach of low taxes and balanced budget, making sure that our debt to GDP is continue to be low. Now, concerning youth unemployment, I have been in the forefront of making sure that young people do have a better opportunity here in Canada. I've worked with thousands and thousands of young people, making sure that they are mentored properly and mentored well so that they can enter the job market prepared with the tools that is being offered to them. And I believe the government of the Conservative government offers a program in which they would in fact be prepared for the future, for the economy. One of the things that we have offered is obviously this skills grant, and then at the same time also those who are newcomers to Canada. We've offered also over $5 million in making sure that foreign credentials are being recognized here in Canada, of which the Liberal Party and their leader have actually voted against.
And thank you. Now we'll go to the NDP, Ms. Khan.
Okay, so for the, I appreciate the question. Thank you for that. There is definitely a need to support young people and invest in them. I can speak to that directly, having been a young person who grew up and have access and programs with the United Way and other organizations. And I really understand that, you know, with the NDP, our platform specifically is about increasing is actually increasing opportunities, but also recognizing that youth need to be valued. So the first thing we'll do is increase our our federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. We've also talked about the investment into small and medium-sized businesses so employers are in a better position to hire more people. And we certainly are also interested in ensuring that the rights of youth are protected. So we've said that interns should have the same rights as other workers. We've also said the infrastructure is important for us, but I find it very interesting that my colleague here from the Liberal Party has said that that's a plan that's come from them, where in fact we've had a conversation about having an urban affairs ministry. And that's very important, a big part of what we're talking about in order to bring more jobs to Mississauga.
Well, what about that, Mr. Algabre? Are you poaching from the NDP from their platform?
I mean, by the way, I have no problem with that. If that's their idea, that's great. The difference, though, is that our plan for infrastructure is much bigger. It's going to have a much bigger and faster impact on employment on the ground. Not only are we going to hire more, these type of programs will hire more people, create more jobs, stimulate the economy, but it'll also build new infrastructure for our economy. It will make our economy much more productive. So it's the Liberal Party, frankly, the only party that is proposing that massive investment to jumpstart the economy, saying we don't need this artificial date to balance the budget tomorrow. We have 2 more years, but in the process, let's stimulate the economy, let's create jobs, let's make sure everybody's working and having a future for themselves and their kids.
And thank you. We'll go to Ms. Khan and we'll go to the Conservative candidate.
Okay, I just wanted to make a note of that to say that we are concerned about a recession today. We need to support our economy. Infrastructure is important. However, we also don't want to be in a position where we're having a deficit of $10 billion every year for the next 3 years. The NDP has actually said that we will commit to having a balanced budget, even though we're bringing in these types of programs that are fiscally sound social programs. So we'll have a balanced budget by the end of the next fiscal year.
Well, the Conservative government has been investing in infrastructure over the last several years. We have introduced the Build Canada plan, which is the longest and the largest infrastructure program here in Canada. Growth in the economy is obviously a high priority in our party. The economy has been growing the 7 consecutive years. The Statistics Canada has revealed that in June we actually grow by 0.5% and will continue to grow over the next several years.
To Mr. Algabre quickly, then Ms. Khan, and we'll wrap this section.
Yeah, my question is to the NDPs, how are they going to do both? How are they going to, they claim they want to increase infrastructure investment, yet maintain it under the Harper budget and maintain a balance. How can they do both? And if they want to do both, what else are they cutting to make that happen?
Ms. Khan.
We have a costed out plan that we are confident we'll be bringing out. There are certain things that we will be cutting as far as the income splitting program goes, also the TFSA doubling. There are other programs that we will start to cut down, specifically to be able to bring in new programs that actually make sense. So our affordable childcare program, a national housing strategy, talking about the infrastructure and supporting that. Those are important things, and those are the things that will really help the middle class, not the programs that the Conservative Party is suggesting will support the middle class.
Mr. Tinson, those were 2 of your key policy initiatives.
Well, I think with regards to the infrastructure and all of the talk about the balanced budget, I think the Conservative is on record that we balance the budget not on the backs of cutting programs, not on the backs of cutting healthcare, not on the backs of cutting education. In fact, we have increased our transfer payment to healthcare as well as the education. Now, if the Liberal is on record to want to have deficit, multi-year deficit, then what is going to come after that? We are going to be back to the 1990s where we actually slash and burn programs in which provincial governments had to carry most of the load, and municipal governments will have to be carrying the burden.
And quickly, Mr. Algabre.
I just want to point out how hypocritical it is. If the Conservative run a deficit for the last 7 years, that's virtuous. But if somebody else is saying we have a better plan, we can actually jumpstart the economy has been stagnant, people are looking for jobs, they say, oh, we can't afford any deficit. So there's hypocrisy here, and I leave it up to the voters to decide.
And we'll move on to our next question. It is on the economy. It's on the economic climate in general. Whether Canada is in a technical recession or not, there's a general sense that the economy of the country has shifted. Low oil prices have caused serious issues for parts of the country, while the lower Canadian dollar has yet to spark a manufacturing renaissance here in Ontario that many people had hoped for. To encourage investment, governments must focus on those things it can control, including the business climate. What will your party do to create a more favorable business climate and investment, climate for business and investment in Canada? We'll go to Ms. Khan.
Okay. Well, we've talked with the NDP about, we've seen the track record of the Conservative Party already, as far as, cutting, as far as being in a technical recession, as you mentioned, Peter, and this is the second under their belt. What we are talking about kickstarting the economy by introducing more dollars into the manufacturing sector, by investing in small to medium-sized businesses, also including things such as an accelerated capital cost program that would support manufacturing programs, companies to actually be able to purchase their equipment. We're talking about creating incentives for, or providing incentives to, for innovation and development, which is also important. We also believe that oil is not the only source of income that we should be bringing. We need to diversify our sectors. So we've talked about, adding green energy and other types of projects. And going back to infrastructure, that's also a big part of us, but also the fiscally sound social programs that we're talking about, right? Our $15 a day childcare program, our national housing strategy, increasing our minimum wage to $15 an hour. These are things that will really and truly also give back money to the economy.
Thank you, Ms. Cohn. We'll go to the Conservative Party candidate to hear about their investment plans.
Well, when it comes to stimulating the economy as well as creating an investment climate for this country, three things that I think we are promoting. First is obviously in the area of infrastructure. Infrastructure is a major plank in our economic plan, and we have shown that over the last several years we have invested infrastructure spending here in Mississauga. The fact of the matter is that over the last 6 years we have invested over $100 million in infrastructure spending here in the city of Mississauga. Secondly is in the area of innovation. Innovation is something that the Conservative government has invested in. Just a few months ago, I was in an announcement in the University of Toronto, the campus here in Mississauga, which research heads and all of the researches that they are looking into will be funded, multi-million dollars that is being funded. And then lastly is in the area of immigration. Immigration is a major plank in our economic action plan. Over the last several years, we have on average over 260,000 people that have come to this country in search for a better future. That alone is going to stimulate our economy simply because these newcomers would need places to live and
thank you. And we'll go to Mr. Alghabra from the Liberal Party.
Thank you, Peter. Unlike the Conservatives, we feel that it's wrong to put all of our eggs in the oil basket. So we're saying we're going to end the subsidies to oil companies, take that money, up $203 million, and invest it in green technologies and innovative technologies, create jobs that way. We're also, I mentioned earlier, proposing the largest infrastructure investment program in the country that will obviously create a very hospitable environment for investment for the private sector to get involved. And also, unlike the NDP, we don't believe that it is the right time to raise corporate taxes at a time when the economy is stagnant and corporations are looking for other places to invest their money. We want to make an environment here that is very welcoming to foreign investment. We want to create jobs, and we want the government to be a partner in that job creation.
Thank you, Ms. Cohn.
So as far as the economy goes, what I'd like to talk about also is the fact that, with the Conservative candidate, we're talking about immigration. Immigration is one of the biggest flaws, I would say, that the Conservative Party has had in the last few years, particularly with issues around increasing the wait times, having backlog. We're talking about issues of now recently, right, Syria, the refugees. There's so many issues with the Conservative Party's immigration policies. Not to mention, my Conservative colleague here talked about youth, right? And there are concerns around youth and the underspending of dollars in one place and the overspending of dollars in others. So when we talk about creating a place for investment, we need to be able to really and truly prioritize what's important for us. And the reality is that we need to go back to a better immigration process that is more inclusive. We know the Conservative Party is playing divisive politics. They're trying to target certain communities and create hate and fear. And it's time that we stop that. It's time that we actually brought it back to these conversations, which are, in fact, about investing better, making the community better.
And thank you. And I think I'll allow the Conservative candidate to respond.
Well, how do we actually grow an economy? Obviously, one which the opposition would like to really point out is the resource sector. That's only 5% of the GDP. The rest of the economy is in fact growing. We have seen, in as much as Canada is positioned in the global economy to even grow further, simply because we have made the investment climate here very easy for people from around the world to actually invest in this country. We have seen over the last 12 months that employment was up by 192,000 jobs, according to StatsCan. We have seen last month that we did have a net job increase of 12,000, and we will continue to increase the favorability of investing and starting a business here in this country, particularly here in Mississauga.
And thank you. And now we'll go to Carol with the next question.
The word the economy is something we're going to hear about a lot today, and definitely throughout this election cycle for sure. We hear a lot of sound bites of using the term the eroding middle class. And we've seen those shifts in our community in particular. I'd like to go a little bit local here. In 1980, 2% of our neighborhoods were considered low income. Today, that stat is 45% of our neighborhoods would be considered to fall into that category. According to a report by the National Council of Welfare, poverty costs taxpayers more than $24 billion a year. This question is for the Conservative candidate. Will your party commit to developing a national poverty reduction strategy? And if so, what would that include?
I have been in the forefront of settling thousands upon thousands of newcomers to this country, and by default, obviously, have been in the forefront also of ensuring that families do have a better future in this country. Once again, in terms of poverty reduction, part of our plan is to ensure that we do create a favorable climate for businesses to actually invest here in Mississauga. Over the last several years, we have seen an increase of 3.4% of earnings for Canadians, and according to the Bank of Canada, we are expecting to grow our economy by 2.5%. And the fact of the matter is that people are buoyant and are out looking for jobs again and desiring to find employment for themselves.
And thank you. We'll go to the Liberal Party candidate.
Thank you, Peter. The fact of the matter is there's not an economist or a social scientist who has not been raising the flag about the erosion of the middle class. And I think everybody agrees, but only the Liberal Party has put together a concrete plan. So we're talking about raising taxes on people, the wealthy, and giving that money back to the middle class. Second, we're stopping the Harper family childcare checks from going to millionaires. The NDP still agree with that. We think millionaires do not need those checks, but we think people with middle income and low income can do better and should receive more. In fact, our plan lifts 315,000 children out of poverty. This is not an assessment done by the Liberal Party. This was done independently by economists. And second, part of our infrastructure plan is $2 billion dedicated for social infrastructure. That will include social housing, that will include childcare spaces, and that will include senior homes. So this money will be totally dedicated to people who need it, and especially the ones in Mississauga.
Thank you. Ms. Khan.
Well, we know that the NDP has always been very committed to lifting people out of poverty. As I've said in my opening remarks as well, that's something that I understand firsthand. And when we look at poverty in the way that and the opportunity I've had to work with the United Way as well, we need to lift people out of poverty. And what that requires is things such as a national housing program to make life more affordable by actually introducing a $15 a day childcare program. We know most families are paying anywhere from $1,200 to $2,000 per day per month per child, and that's unacceptable. We shouldn't have to worry about that. And as a result, we have 900,000 Canadians that are accessing food banks on a monthly basis. That's unacceptable for us to live in a country like Canada and have poverty. We know poverty looks differently as well, though. It's not it's not always apparent. So we also recognize that there's very precarious employment and there's not enough jobs, or people are struggling to make ends meet. So we're looking at increasing $15 a day, $15 an hour minimum wage. We also talked about investing in medium and small sized businesses so that they have the ability to actually create more jobs and access and give Mississauga residents the kind of affordable, safe living that they require.
And thank you. We'll go to the Conservative candidate, then we'll go to the Liberal candidate.
Well, again, the fact of the matter is that income among Canadians have increased by 3.4%. And the fact of the matter is that, Canada and the middle class of Canada is not necessarily shrinking. It is in fact growing. It is now the largest and most wealthiest middle class in the developing world. And even our friend south of the border has recognized that Canada is in fact has a very strong and robust middle class. One of the things that the Liberal would like to point out is to ensure that there is a class warfare that is happening here in Canada. They would say that they would increase taxes on those who are the rich. Well, that will be a disincentive for many people who would like to become prosperous in this country. That would be a disincentive for productivity. That would be a disincentive in making sure that families who come to this country would actually aspire for a better life.
Mr. Algabra, excuse me.
In fact, our tax system is progressive. We're always asking people who do well to pay a little bit more. And what we're doing this time, what we're proposing this time, is to adjust it a little bit more, because everybody knows that the middle class is being squeezed. What I can't fathom or can't understand is, I know the NDP has always been championing anti-poverty, and I don't understand why they're opposing the Liberal plan that is guaranteed to lift 315,000 children out of poverty. I don't understand why they support the Conservatives' plan to continue to send checks to millionaires. It really boggles my mind. I think it would have been good for the NDP to at least see the wisdom in that plan and support it.
Well, we'll give you an opportunity to have her explain her plan to you. Ms. Cohn.
Okay. Well, we are committed to, as the NDP, committed to making sure that everyone has access to affordable childcare and also access to child tax benefit. We have agreed to make sure that the child tax benefit stays for all people, but we also recognize, and I'm not sure if my Liberal colleague here is very supportive of that, but we need to recognize also that when it comes to affordable living and actually talking about childcare, just having a child tax benefit is not going to necessarily take away the cost of the high childcare, right? There's huge childcare costs that we're ignoring. We can't just say, well, you know what, we'll keep the childcare as is. It's super expensive, but you know what, we'll just send you a check for X number of dollars. That's not how it works. Need to get to the root of the problem, and that's what we're doing.
Mr. Algabra, just quickly.
Sure, I do agree. I think these child care tax checks are not enough, and that's why we have in our plan $2 billion. Some of it will go to creating child care spaces, but the difference is that it will be means tested. It will be for people who need it. We also do not think giving $15 a day child care to the wealthy is the wisest thing. I think we should give it to people who need it.
And quickly, to the Conservative candidate, if he chooses.
Well, again, the best program in terms of lifting people to poverty is to make sure that our economy continues to grow, and I think the Conservative plan is working, where we have allowed businesses to prosper and grow, and there's prospect for more growth in the future. And as a result of that growth, more jobs will be available, and the best social program is actually a job for people, and availability of jobs to everyone.
And Ms. Cohn, you wanted to weigh in?
Yes, I'd like to respond back to my Liberal colleague here. So childcare is actually something that was on the Liberal agenda many years ago. It was a national plan that was supposed to be introduced. We never ended up getting that. So sometimes we have promises that are not being fulfilled. The Conservative government also agreed to having childcare spaces. That didn't happen either. And so we are committed. We've always said that we will, and we will. We have a track record. Tom is very clear. When he says something, that's what we follow through with, and we've seen that consistently with him as the opposition leader as well.
Mr. Algabra, I think I know what you're going to say.
I'll
So make
be
it quick.
very quick.
Yeah,
I'll be very quick.
Yeah.
In 2005, it was the Liberal government that brought in a child care plan that was signed by all of the provinces. Unfortunately, it was the NDP who brought the House down, and we ended up with a Conservative government that cancelled that plan.
Quickly.
It took 10 years. You waited till after the 10 years at the very end to introduce the childcare program. I find that very problematic that you would give the NDP that kind of you would hold us accountable for that when you had 10 years to actually, or more, to actually introduce that plan.
Okay, so we'll move on to our next question. It's around foreign affairs with the death of Elan Kurdi, the young Syrian boy who drowned trying to reach the safety of the shores of Greece. The world's attention has been directed to the issue of migrants and refugees. European countries have now agreed to step up their settlement efforts, and the Pope has encouraged all churches to give sanctuary to people. Many Canadians want to do more as well. Mr. Algabra, what should the Government of Canada be doing to address the issues of migrants and refugees?
So thank you for that important question. This is one of the moments in life that really reveals leadership and reveals compassion and humanity. And it is really unfortunate that we're seeing this current government, this current Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, show a complete disregard and unwillingness to move and to respond to the calls of the premiers, the mayors, including our own mayor, Mayor Crombie, to bringing in more refugees. The Liberal Party has put together a plan saying, and in fact, it was 5 months ago in the House of Commons that Justin Trudeau called for increasing the number of Syrian refugees before that dreadful image. And I can tell you, as a person who's originally from Syria, I have emotional and historical attachment to the conflict over there. And when I see humans suffering, I know we as Canadians can do much more than we have been. We can at least show compassion. We can at least show a sense of urgency. We can send people on the ground there. I just heard yesterday that we only have few names on the sponsorship list. We have more Canadian sponsors than actual refugees on the sponsorship list. Where is the sense of urgency? Where is compassion?
We'll go to the Conservative candidate at this point.
Well, the Conservative is on record in saying that we have received 204,000 refugees over the last 6 years. On average, we have received anywhere from 22 to 25,000 refugees every single year. 23,000 of those refugees come from conflict places like Iraq and Syria. And over the next several years, we will be receiving 10,000 more. Obviously, the whole issue there is so complex that a simple approach to just wanted to settle more is not going to solve the problems over there. Obviously, there is more that we can do. We can do better in terms of making sure that there is rapid processing of those that would like to sponsor refugees, because these are times that are very difficult in that part of the world. But nevertheless, let us be very, very clear that the Conservative record when it comes to immigration and refugees is that we have been receiving 260,000 immigrants, and included in that is anywhere from 23 to 25,000 refugees every single year for the last 9 years.
Ms. Khan.
So we know that we do need to, there is a sense of urgency. It's very unfortunate that Ellen Kurdi's picture came up and that we've seen that example. We recognize as the NDP as well that we do need to do more for Syria, and that Conservative government has failed for the Syrian people. We know that we've committed to having 10,000 refugees and wanting to bring them in right away immediately so we can absorb them as the UN has suggested, and that we would bring in an additional 9,000 every year for the next 4 years. The question I have for the Conservative candidate is that why is it that your government is actually not introducing more government-sponsored employees? Why is it that you're consistently telling people, you go be a private sponsor? It's difficult enough for us as people today to live. There's not enough affordable living. We're struggling to make ends meet. And then for us to expect that we spend an extra $30,000 to sponsor a family is just unacceptable. It's time for the government to step up. It's the time for the government to actually put in the dollars as opposed to spend it in other places. And we've seen where the government's been spending the money.
Ms. Tiang Sung, I'll give you an opportunity.
Well, again, the government is on record of receiving anywhere from 23 to 25,000 refugees every single year. And the very reason why it is so important that communities would actually come together and move forward with private sponsorship, because there is a better chance for refugees to actually be connected as soon as possible with people on the ground, people who do care about themselves and care about the welfare of these refugees, and make sure that they get introduced to a network of connections and community services so that they can integrate as soon as possible. I mean, in as much as the government resources is good and should come at a time such as this, but nevertheless, it is important that private citizens, Canadians, community groups, churches, mosques, temples, families of Syrian descent, who would actually step up and make their contribution count and absorb a number of these refugees as part of the sponsorship.
Thank you, Mr. Alghabra and Ms. Khan.
Yeah, you know, the Conservative candidate's talking about how complicated the situation over there, and of course it is. You never have refugees come out of uncomplicated situation. But the fact of the matter is, in the past, we've done it. We've risen to the occasion. And you know what? It may not save everybody, but if it saves one family's life, one additional child, this is what we can do. This is what our history has shown the rest of the world. This is what we pride ourselves on. And I agree with Ms. Khan. We need to introduce more government-sponsored refugees. We need to show, like I said, a sense of urgency. We need to show our compassion not only to ourselves, but to the rest of the world.
Ms. Khan.
So I just wanted to reiterate that our Conservative candidate is talking about, broadly accepting refugees. We keep talking about Syria, and you're not really answering the question. The government, what is the government actually going to do? Because you consistently say, I understand that. It's great if families have the ability to sponsor, and we have organizations we can partner with to make sure that people are, when they get here, they're actually reintegrating in a good manner. But it is the government's responsibility. Rather than wasting your money on scandals in the Senate, you can actually use some of that money to do better and to do good for these people. We also know that peacekeeping is a very important part of the Canadian history, and peacekeeping and peacemaking, and that's also something that we need to relook at. When we talk about the complications in Syria, it's time that we revisited what Canada's role is in Syria and in the Middle East, and when we actually brought peace to the Middle East. That's the answer, in addition to supporting the Syrians that are on the ground there today.
Mr. Jansen.
Well, again, we have demonstrated as a government that we are prepared to act in this file. Over the last several years, again, we have brought in 23 to 25,000 every single year of refugees. In the last at least 3 years, we brought in over 23,000 Syrian and Iraqi refugees, and over the next several years, we will be bringing 10,000 or more. And that is the response of a government that is compassionate, that is a response of government that is asking private citizens to be compassionate also as well, to open their homes, to open also their wallets, and to open their hearts in such a way that these people, as they come over here from a very conflicted situation, can in fact be settled properly with the proper connections and the community network that is made available through private sponsorship as well as government-sponsored sponsorship.
And briefly, Ms. Khan, you wanted to weigh in something quickly?
Yeah, I just wanted to say Turkey's doing 1 million refugees already they're managing, so how is it that we're only committing to 10,000? That's quite unacceptable.
Okay, so we'll move on to Carol for the next question.
This question I will bring back a little bit more local if we look at the Canadian experience, and I'll start with a question for the NDP candidate this time. It's about precarious employment. 40% of our labour market in Peel, here locally, is precariously employed. Through changing economic conditions, many people have lost good-paying, full-time positions and have had to replace them with short-term contracts or a few part-time jobs that have no benefits, no retirement savings, and no real commitment to the employee. What policies would your party put in place to address precarious employment, and how would you see them playing out here in our community?
Well, for one, thank you for Carol for that question. The first thing is that we need to be able to create more jobs, right? And then by even actually creating good, stable, reliable jobs, we're actually in a position to ensure that people are not working precarious contract work. And we're going to do that by increasing the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. That will give people more disposable income and ensure that they can spend more. That'll support the economy as well. But also, we're talking about investing in small and medium-sized businesses. When Tom was here in Mississauga a couple of weeks ago, we visited a small business. We talked to them about what the challenges were. They said that they needed, capital costs. They needed support around, more investment and grants to support the work that they're doing, so that they're in a better position to actually hire more people and have those good, strong jobs. So we've talked about that. We've also said that I'm committed personally, as the MP, I would bring the infrastructure dollars that we're talking about directly to Mississauga, so we can work on issues of traffic and gridlock, but also our transit system, and that too will create secure and stable jobs for Mississauga residents.
Thank you. We'll go to Mr. Jansen.
Well, again, over the last 9 years, we have created jobs, in fact, 1.3 net new jobs, and these jobs are mostly in the private sector. And one of the things that is happening here in Mississauga, particularly the region of Peel, is that we are receiving over 2,000 new immigrants every single month. About 24,000 to 26,000 people coming to reside here in the region of Peel. Many of them are seeking for a better future. And one of the things that the Conservative government is actually proposing is the faster recognition of their foreign credentials, making sure that equivalency exams are fair and we will develop bridging programs to integrate new immigrants so that they can, in fact, be part of the economic prosperity that Canada has to offer, particularly the region of Peel. The reason why there's high unemployment here in Mississauga, it's primarily because of that. We receive 2,000 to 3,000 newcomers every single year, and every single month, or 24 to 26,000 every single year, and we need to do our very best so that we can help them achieve economic prosperity and be integrated in our economy. And part of our plan is to make sure that their foreign credentials are actually recognized, and recognized fast. And not only that, that skills grant
and
are
thank
actually
you.
being given to them also as well.
And thank you, sir. We'll go to Mr. Algabra.
Carol, thank you for that important question. You're right. A lot of the private sector has been holding back their investment because of the stagnant economy and the lack of confidence that's going on. And that obviously is having an impact on employment and, as you described it, a precarious situation. And particularly here in Mississauga, where we have been successful at attracting some of the top Fortune 500 companies. So we have a lot of expertise here. We have a lot of skills here. But what there needs to happen is the government needs to jumpstart the economy. We need to stimulate the economy. With this environment of lack of confidence, with uncertain future, we need to see the government step up to the front and say, you know what, this is the right time to invest in our communities, to invest in our economy, and that's when the private sector will start working on these projects. Their confidence in the economy will grow. They'll hire more people. The subcontractors will hire more people, and people in Mississauga will get more employed. So this is really important, and we're the only party that is proposing this. We're the only party that's saying, let's delay balancing the budget on the backs of the economy and make sure we have jobs.
Thank you, Mr. Algabra. We'll go to Ms. Khan.
So for my Liberal colleague, we don't want to be leaving more of a mess for our grandchildren after the fact. So I just want to be mindful of the fact that, yes, we want to be able to invest in dollars today and in our infrastructure, but we also need to be mindful of what we leave behind. For the Conservative candidate, I just want to go back to your point. You spoke about the fact that foreign credentials are not being recognized. That's a promise that's been made many, many times before, and we don't see any change in that. So I would question whether or not that's still the case. I also disagree about the kinds of people who are getting jobs. It's not just the new immigrants that don't have jobs. When we go to the doors, we meet all kinds of people, graduates who've been here for years who just can't find jobs. So it's not just the new immigrants. It's unfair to say that. Seniors as well. We have seniors who are now unemployed because they were told that they're going to have an age of retirement at 65, and now that's been changed to 67. So there are many other issues that result in unemployment other than just the immigrant experience.
Conservative candidate.
Well, thank you. Well, it doesn't really make sense that we would continue to ask the government to step in and stimulate the economy. There is a time and a place for that, but this is not the time and a place to actually do that. And the reason why is this. If my Liberal colleague is saying that businesses are actually holding back investment, then why can't we actually stimulate a business investment into the economy by actually incentivizing this, incentivizing the business people? And one of the things that we're doing that is making sure that our taxes are low, and we're proposing that over the next several years, that business taxes would actually be lowered down to 9% in such a way that they themselves will reinvest that savings in taxes and allow their business to grow and hire more people. Again, I'd like to point out, StatsCan had revealed that over 12,000 net new jobs were added in August. People are buoyant in looking for jobs, and businesses are investing in their businesses so that they can hire more people so that the economy will continue to grow.
Ms. Khan and Mr. Algabra.
So a couple of things. One, first of all, the small business rate. I just wanted to remind Mr. Tiangson here that the small business tax rate was something that the NDP introduced prior to the budget being released, and both parties actually voted against it. But now it's a part of their platform, which we are happy to also inform that we were the ones who suggested that the small business tax rate will be reduced from 11 to 9%, and that will actually support the investment into small businesses and support small businesses in creating better jobs. The other thing to also note is that we are actually saying that we will increase the corporate tax rate to what is currently the average of the G7. And that's not an unreasonable request. It's only a couple of percent, but we know that that money and that percentage increase will in fact bring more money into the economy. And there is no and that's the best, and that's the concrete plan, and that's actually exactly what the NDP will do to ensure that we can support our community in Mississauga.
Mr. Cabra.
You know, what I don't understand is how a few years ago both the NDP and the Conservatives agreed that at a time of economic stagnation, the government can play a role, even if it meant a short-term deficit. And frankly, every business owner, every corporation, every household leader knows that at times you may need to borrow money for the short term to buy something that's going to benefit you in the long term. So frankly, we're the only party, and every economist is saying now, almost all economists agree that we're probably in a deficit already. So, you know, we're the only party that's telling Canadians the truth. We're the only party who are hearing the struggles of the middle class. People are saying they're struggling to find jobs, and we're saying we're going to step up and we're going to invest in our country. And frankly, if our ancestors said, oh, we can't have a deficit and invest in our country, we would never have built any of the infrastructure that we're benefiting from today. So we need to do that. This is the right time to do it.
So we're closing down our show. We have about 10 minutes left, so about time for 2 more questions. So we want to move through our questions. So brevity is the soul of wit, as they say. Ms. Khan.
Just wanted to say that it's important to, like I've reiterated before, it's very important to invest in our communities and our infrastructure. However, we cannot be leaving a $10 billion deficit per year for the next 3 years for our grandchildren and our future generations to have to carry, and that's unreasonable.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next question regarding, and it's a real hot topic here in Mississauga, regarding transportation and infrastructure. As we all know, the cost of congestion is estimated in excess of $6 billion in our region. These are escalating costs and detrimental to the economy of our region. We know that the province has stepped in and committed to fully fund the the Huron-Ontario LRT, although there are other needs in our region and our community. What role do you think the federal government, particularly your government, should you form one, should have in funding transportation and transit infrastructure? Mr. Alghabra.
Peter, thank you for the question. First, let me say it is regrettable that the federal government did not participate in funding the LRT project. This is something that is really important for our city. Our city, the city of Mississauga, is on the cusp of transforming into an urban center, particularly Mississauga Center. With higher density, our needs for public transit is increasing. We're seeing traffic jams, we're seeing long waiting hours at public transit, GO stations, so we really need new investment that not only will help us today, but it will help us tomorrow, but it'll help stimulate our economy, and it'll make us much more productive. And that's why I'm proud to say part of our massive infrastructure plan is $2 billion a year for the next 10 years, additional $2 billion a year for infrastructure, for transit infrastructure funding. And that would be my role as your member of parliament to make sure that the city of Mississauga's needs are looked after, that part of that funding comes here to the city of Mississauga, and not only to fund projects at the LRT, but other projects that are much needed in this area.
Thank you. We'll go to Mr. Tianson to comment on that.
Well, again, the Conservative government has introduced the Canada Building Plan, which is actually the longest as well as the most massive or largest long-term infrastructure plan here in Canada. And again, one of the credits I could give to our Conservative colleagues, Bob Deckert, who in fact brought in over $100 million of infrastructure money here to invest here in Mississauga alone. 70% of that has been invested in social projects to improve recreational buildings and parks and local parks and other social infrastructure. And the others is being invested in roads and being invested also in our transit system. So I think we are on record of being successful in bringing $100 to $120 million of infrastructure funding here for the city. And I will continue to advocate for that. I will continue to fight for that. We do have a track record in making sure that that happens.
Ms. Khan.
The federal government has not done enough to support our local transit system in Mississauga, and we've seen that. We all know what it feels like to go into the Mississauga Transit and how that feels to get around the city. We also know, though, that as my Liberal colleague mentioned as well, that the government was not involved in the Huron-Ontario LRT, which is very unfortunate. And disturbing. The other thing, though, I want to mention is that when Tom was here in Mississauga a few weeks ago as well, he had a special message for Mayor Crombie, and basically he said, we are open as a federal government to be a partner with the local cities to make sure that we support the issues of transit and infrastructure directly in the city here. That's something new. We're talking as the NDP about an urban affairs ministry. We're saying that we will, in fact, ensure that when federal funds are coming into the cities, that we work in partnership to make sure that the money is used in the best way possible, and that we bring the best supports that we require in Mississauga. Transit's a big part of that, and we will continue to work on that in addition to our housing strategy and affordable childcare programs.
And quickly, Mr. Alghabra.
I mean, I think everybody agrees that infrastructure is needed. But the difference here is that we're the only party that has a plan. We're the only party that we're saying you need to increase that investment. We're the only party that's saying balancing the budget today at this juncture in time under these economic circumstances can be delayed a bit because people need not only transit, but they need jobs and they need to have a future. So I feel very proud that while everybody is saying yes, 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 but we're the only party that has a plan.
Thank you, sir. And we'll go 10 seconds each to your other candidates. Yes, Ms. Cohn.
Okay. The infrastructure is just one part of our plan for the NDP. The NDP is also committed to bringing affordable childcare. We're talking about $15 a day minimum wage. We're talking about investing in small and medium-sized businesses. Infrastructure is important, but that's not the only answer. There is so much more that we need to do with our socially, fiscally sound programs that the NDP is committed to bringing. We do have a concrete plan.
Again, we do have the Building Canada plan, which is the largest and longest infrastructure plan in Canada. This plan includes $32 billion for city projects such as road, public transit, recreational facilities, and other infrastructure. $14 billion of this fund for projects of national and regional significance. We do have a plan for infrastructure.
And we'll go to Carol now for our next and very likely final question.
Thank you very much, Peter. This question is regarding affordable housing, but specifically homelessness in our community. It's a little known fact about how much homelessness exists here in Peel because it's hidden. It's difficult to see. And access to safe, affordable housing is fundamental for survival, critical, especially in such a very cold country. The severe shortage of affordable housing in Peel has created one of the longest wait lists for subsidized housing in Ontario. The availability of emergency shelter services for young people is very limited. The one youth shelter we have in the region of Peel, so for 3 cities, has such high demand they had to turn over 450 kids away last year because they didn't have the space for them. So these children are being turned away every year.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So that's okay. My question was going to be for the Conservative candidate. Will your party commit to a national affordable housing strategy with a focus on addressing youth homelessness?
Well, thank you for the question, Carol. Again, I think the Conservative government has been praised by a number of advocates in this file, saying that we do have made sure that homelessness is an issue that we continue to address. And for me personally, because of the nature of the work that I did before, affordable housing is very important to me. It is important because Canadians who wanted to be prosperous in this economy and to be part of a growing economy, the first thing that we would like to invest is obviously a home. More and more, as we have seen, houses have become quite unreachable for many who would like to purchase their first home. I think the Conservative government is offering a plan in such a way that affordable housing would be introduced to many people who would like to buy their first home.
And thank you. And we'll go 30 seconds each quite briefly to Ms. Cohn and to Mr. Algabra.
Okay, the NDP has a national affordable housing strategy that we have committed to doing. It's part of our urban affairs ministry that we've been speaking about. And we have already had a housing, we've already had a critic for that position for this past government as well. So it's definitely something that we're committed to doing. Also though, when we talk about youth and homelessness also affects women and young women, and we are also committed to supporting women. $40 million going into women's shelters, and particularly emergency shelters, to create 2,100 more spaces and 350 more beds.
Mr. Algabra.
Carol, thank you for bringing that topic up, because it is, like I said in my opening remark, and this is what I truly believe, that we're only as strong as our most vulnerable. And I truly believe that we need to bring back a role for the federal government in setting a strategy, a national strategy for affordable housing. And not only are we committing to it, but we're also backing it up with dollars. So I mentioned earlier that we have a $2 billion a year, additional $2 billion a year for social infrastructure. And we have among my colleagues, Adam Vaughan, who is known to be a strong and a proud voice pushing and advocating for affordable housing strategy.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry, we have to go to our closing remarks right now, and I thank you for your fulsome answers. We'll now go in the reverse order that we started with the Conservative candidate for 1 minute in closing remarks.
This is an incredible opportunity for me to participate in democracy here in Canada. As a young person, when I first came over here, I was looking for a better future. And as a result of that, I worked hard, made sure that I position myself in such a way that I can, in fact, improve myself. Today, I do have children that are 26, 24, and 22 years old. All three of them are also looking for a better future. I believe that the Conservative Party has the best plan in such a way that young people like my own children would have a better future with our low tax, balanced budget, and making sure that our economy continues to grow. Our children, my children, will have a better future under the Conservative leadership of Stephen Harper, where he is in fact a proven leader, one who is experienced in handling a $1.9 trillion economy, but then at the same time, it allows us to provide stability in the next several years in a world that is so unstable. So I'm asking you for your vote this coming October 19th.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tianseng from the Conservative Party. We'll now go to Ms. Khan from the New Democratic Party of Canada.
In the last 10 years, we've seen the Conservative government's plan fail for Mississauga. We also know that the Liberals don't have a clear plan for Mississauga. The NDP has a plan, and we're committed to bringing change to Mississauga by making life more affordable, by ensuring that we address the issues of traffic and congestion and transit, and that we make life Mississauga a safer place to live. We need a new vision, one that actually brings change to Mississauga. We need a new government, one that we can trust, and we need a new voice in Parliament, someone born and raised in Mississauga who understands our local issues. I am Farheen Khan, the NDP MP candidate for Mississauga Centre, and I will be that voice. I am a New Democrat, and I represent the NDP party, and we're ready.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. Mr. Alghabra from the Liberal Party of Canada.
Thank you for watching. You know, it used to be that when you would discuss Canadian politics with someone, their eyes would just glaze over. That was the time when government was focused on the economy, jobs, the well-being and safety of all Canadians. You know, dry stuff, but stuff that made a difference in Canadians' everyday life. Today, all you need to do is just bring up politics, and you see people frustrated and disgusted. Why? Because they're seeing government focused on attack ads, on scandal cover-ups, on pitting Canadian against Canadian and fear-mongering. We need to change that. My pledge to you as your member of parliament is to always be focused on your interests, is to always tell you the truth, is to be accessible, and is to be a strong voice in Ottawa, not a robot that mimics lifeless talking points. My name is Omar Alghabra, and I hope I can count on your support on October 19th.
Thank you, Mr. Alghabra from the Liberal Party of Canada. That now concludes our debate. I would like to thank each of our candidates for participating in our All Candidates debate. I'd like to thank Carol, who's joined me on several of these debates and will join me on several more. She's been a very active and fulsome participant. I believe I can speak for all of our viewers when I say that we're much more aware of not only the issues facing our city and our nation, but also the candidates and their parties' positions on those issues. This now concludes our federal candidates debate for the riding of Mississauga Centre. Once again, I'd like to thank Rogers TV for being a partner with the Mississauga Board of Trade and hosting this debate, and to our panel members for their participation. Be sure to tune in to Rogers TV on election night for complete election night coverage, including up-to-the-minute local results, in-depth analysis of your local riding, on-location stories, leader speeches, and an opportunity for you to provide your thoughts either by calling in, email, Facebook, or Twitter. The local campaign, it begins at 8:30 p.m. on election night, October 19th on Rogers TV. Most importantly, please make sure you get out and vote.